The top 10 problems facing our youth today. 1. People of pride and national identity. If the Olympics are held every year, then this may not be a problem. This list is indicative of the fact that America, like any country, has problems. The issue is collective, albeit among the people affected by how to deal with them. Unfortunately, most people tend to focus on themselves, not all. We see that these problems affect them, and not me, us, when we hear that America's children are the most obese among Western countries. This does not bite. When we know that America's children lie educationally behind other industrialized nations, we do not retreat. There is very little sense of the collective identity of people, like Americans. This is the result of our children not being educated and targeted properly. There was a time when every child would start their school day by standing up and reading the Pledge of Loyalty. Children were taught the importance of July 4th besides fireworks. These practices are long gone, and so is our shared destiny. 2. Poverty. The federal poverty level is $22,050 for a family of 4. This is equivalent to 21% of all children, 15 million children, considered to be in poverty. Just to cover the basic expenses for a family of 4, you'll need a salary of $45,000. This means that about 50% of our children live in poverty. Half of these children do not receive any government assistance because their parents earned over $22,050 that year. According to the National Center for Children in Poverty (NCCP), poverty is the single biggest threat to children's well-being. Poverty impedes learning and contributes to social and behavioral problems. And imagine what? There is no income to meet these problems. The mother cannot afford the teacher costs or the father cannot afford the costs of the counselor. There is a great opportunity for society to stop being very materialistic, and therefore poverty will not be a problem because most children will get the same things, the things they need rather than what they want. This would reduce violence in schools because fewer children harass them. 3. Economic transformation. America used to support itself in making its own products through manufacturing, then turning and selling these products. The economy is shifting to more service industry versus manufacturing. In order to reduce costs and maintain product prices, companies are forced to outsource manufacturing to other countries. Other countries can produce products with much lower labor costs. Some companies have begun to outsource call center jobs to keep labor costs down. Not only does America now have paid service jobs that are below average blue-collar jobs with sustainable income, but our economy is now an economy. For example, what happens in Japan or Iraq can dramatically change the prices of our stock exchanges, gas, oil, and many other products. What exactly does this mean for our youth? Young people cannot graduate or even drop out of school without experiencing the pain of a low-income job. The jobs offered without experience pay very little with too little room to increase salaries. In fact, the competition could be for a fierce upgrade. In the past, high school students could graduate and go to work in the local factory for the rest of his life and earn a living. They will not necessarily need to have a college education to survive. In fact, today young people will graduate from college with multiple degrees and are still unable to find a job that pays enough to maintain a decent lifestyle. 4. Disparity in education. Education is important. Few people would argue over this respectable fact. Good education, compared to poor education, will provide the child with an increased opportunity to take advantage of opportunities to be successful in life. Unfortunately, some people have better ones than others. This is not an issue for one school to be better than another. Rather, we are talking about depriving entire classes of American children of appropriate education that will prepare them to compete in the labor market with their peers and have the same access to the American dream. The difference in the quality of education is determined by race and financial condition. If you live in a poor neighborhood or a minority, there is a good chance that the schools you enroll in lack many essentials. While Asians and whites have high graduation rates, African and Hispanic Americans are still left behind. Not surprisingly, given that job opportunities are lower for dropouts, these two groups have the highest incarceration rates. 5. Obesity. Our children are fat and get fatter. The latest figures show that 20% of American children are obese. Not full, awesome. The blame lies in part on video games, television, the internet and fast food. Children spend more time sitting in front of the TV, computer screen than running outside. This stable lifestyle has consequences. Socially, it's no secret that obese children will be ridiculed by their peers. It's sad, but it's true nevertheless. This can lead to problems like low self-esteem, depression, etc. Then there are health concerns. High blood pressure, diabetes and other diseases associated with obesity. Obesity and psychology. Obesity is a problem that can be solved with a slight increase in activity and awareness. 6. The money. We live in a society that promotes materialism and thus perpetuates this particular disease by instilling bad habits in our children. We teach our children that the measure of success and happiness in life is the amount of things that you have. Children want things naturally, especially if their friends have something similar. Unfortunately, there appears to be a little bit of restraint on the accompanying guide as we start on it. Basically, we offer our children what they want within our financial ability to do so. It seems that the concept of earning what you get or the idea that something you don't need has been lost and ignored. Is there really any wonder why the average debt of $15,000 at any time? We have a mindset to get what we want and when we want it to be rooted in us since childhood. The unfortunate consequence is that there are devastating consequences for such persistent behavior later in life. 7. Violence in schools. Educating a child is the foundation from which he will be able to go out into the world and build a life. Schools play a major role in this endeavor, and therefore it is reasonable to expect that these learning spaces will be safe havens for children as they prepare for adulthood. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. In many cases, especially in low-income urban areas, schools can be a war zone. We are not talking about simple bullying, but rather serious violence. Keep in mind, in the last decade, 284 children have been killed by school violence, shootings, stabbings, fighting and suicide. Growing up is difficult enough without worrying about killing while going to a math class. 8. Aging rapidly. There was a time when children enjoyed being children. Today, even in the early stages of life, children participate in adult activities that have serious consequences. Similar to what we see with alcohol and drugs, sex is a very popular topic and is portrayed. Films, television, the internet, essentially everywhere a child being bombed becomes sexually suggestive. In fact, there is a complete TV series marketed directly to children who deal with sex, The Terrible Lives of an American Teenager and Teen Mom, for example. Music is the culprit as well. Songs always contained sexual hints, but at least, on the day, you had to be old enough to understand them. Today, it's all about, how far can you go, and, darling let me have sex with you. Children have sex between the ages of 10 and 11, with teenage pregnancy increasing. The concept of childhood is literally erased. 9. Use drugs and alcohol. There was a time in cinematic history where almost every actor, actress was shot on screen with a cigarette in hand. Smoking was implicit, cool. As a result, everyone, including children, was doing this. As awareness of the danger of smoking increased, cool images of smoking disappeared. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about drugs and alcohol. These vices are essential materials in the daily media. Simply put, drinking and using drugs are great. The numbers carry the story. 21% of high school seniors say they get a high percentage and 41% of the same group report drinking alcohol. Our children literally move into a drunken daze. Then immature behavior is amplified by being under the influence. Drunk driving, bad grades and attendance, antisocial behavior and violence, and the list goes on. 10. Mother or father orphan. The number of single-parent homes has constantly increased to the point of disaster. Today, 14 million single parents are responsible for 28 million children. Raising a child is difficult enough in a parent's home, especially in difficult economic circumstances. The situation is most dangerous when there is only one parent. Economically, a single parent is likely to bring less income into the home. This equates to fewer opportunities for vital necessities like education. Trying to make ends meet also requires time spent away from children who need parental guidance, influence. In the absence of persistent parenthood guidance, children are exposed to higher dropout rates, a higher risk of risky sexual behaviors and pregnancy, and greater opportunities for drug and alcohol abuse, until a village is required to raise children.